Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to this frequently asked question video. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Love your questions. Please do keep them coming. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com, and the YouTube comments as well. This question comes from Joythi, and she asked through Facebook, she asked me about her particular situation in a sense. So she said that many astrologers have advised her not to get married again. And she's also been told that it's okay for her to do like a common law thing, but not to get married. So she said, why are astrologers telling me this? And is there any way that I can move beyond this? Okay. First of all, I want to give you a big hug, Joythi. It's interesting to me how astrologers sort of, understand the chart, and ultimately all astrologers are, in their own way, doing what it is, advising the best to their ability based on their particular worldview as well. But actually, I'll tell you a little story. This reminded me of a friend that I've known for many years as part of the astrological community. Been with the same person for many, many years. When he met this person, he said, look, I'm not getting married again. It's not good for me. It's not good in the astrology. It's not what I want to do. I can't do it. But, after like 10 years, his girlfriend was like, look, we're getting married or I'm leaving. And so he said, you know what? I got to do it. So how that came about was, from an astrological perspective, he had a very strong and positive 5th house, but a weak 7th house, we could say. And what I mean by that is, when we are judging as astrologers, when we are trying to make a judgment on the strength of a particular area of life, we're looking at the ruling planet of that house on the cusp. So what sign is on the cusp? 7th house. Joythi said she has a sort of a afflicted 7th house. So she's got not only lots of planets in the 7th house, which is one consideration, what planets are in the 7th house, but also what planet rules the 7th house, what sign is on the cusp, what sign is on the descendant, how's that planet doing? So we're looking first at how that ruling planet is doing. If there's lots of really difficult conversations happening, right? Lots of squares, lots of oppositions. It's not as good, you want to see trines and sextiles. They're always better to see trines and sextiles, yes, especially where it comes to relationships. But then also, what are the planets inside there doing as well, right? If you've got a very afflicted ruler of the 7th house, and you've got planets in the 7th house also very afflicted as well, yes, there might be astrologers out there who would advise, maybe marriage isn't for you. So where it comes to relationships, relationships actually hold several houses in the chart. Relationships start in the 5th house, right, which is romance, fun, feeling alive, feeling creative energy. It's enjoying this other person's company. It's butterflies in the stomach. And then relationships evolve and they move on to the 6th house. They become about, okay, I'll pick you up after work and then we can do this and then we can go here and, let's figure out our schedules. Do they match? When do you like to wake up for breakfast? When do I? It starts with this idea of, okay, how can I incorporate this person more into my life? 7th house is the agreement. It is the partnership. It is the commitment. It is the signing of the contract. Now, because of the modern ways that we understand relationships, you can have those levels of commitment without necessarily having the contract. And then we have the 8th house, which is about sharing resources, sharing money, pooling your money together, supporting each other financially when one person's a little bit down or whatever the case may be. So what essentially astrologers have been advising, because of a very afflicted 7th house, is to say, okay, let's try to ignore the 7th house. And instead, let's keep you in the 5th house and the 6th house. And then that way, and then even if you want to go a little bit to the 8th house and have those shared financial agreements, it's okay, because that way you're not sort of engaging that 7th house energy that ultimately is going to make you go another way that might not be so good for you. Just like with my friend. Now, here's the thing, what happened with my friend. Well, my friend started having important aspects to his 7th house. With those aspects, he knew that this is a part of life that had to evolve. Uranus and Pluto aspecting the descendant. You got to evolve. Like it or not, you've got to get to the root of why you are the way you are in this part of life. Whenever Pluto moves into a new house, and whenever Uranus aspects the cusp, especially the ascendant or descendant or the midheaven or the IC, when planets aspect those points, when planets conjunct those points, you have to look at that area of life and you have to be honest with yourself, and you've got to evolve that area of life as well. You've got to take ownership for where you are, and you've got to make changes. So Pluto is about getting to the root of a matter, confronting your fears, changing things significantly. As Pluto conjuncted the descendant, his longtime girlfriend said, you know what, I'm not cool with this. I need to get married. I want to get married. And that was Pluto on his 7th house saying, look, you've got to deal with the issues here. You might not want to. You've got all these afflictions, but that means that there's potential there for growth, for healing, for change. Now, when we talked as a group, all of us astrologers who've known each other for so many years, we were saying, oh, maybe she should stay out of his 7th house. Right now she's in the 5th. Everything's great in the 5th house and the 6th house, but his 7th house is so messed up, maybe he shouldn't go there. But he had Pluto conjuncting his cusp, his descendant. So he knew he's got to do it. He's got to commit. It's the hardest thing. You don't want to do what Pluto asks you to do. And especially if it's already a really tough area of life, you really don't want to do what's being asked of you to do. But that's exactly what you have to do if you're going to evolve and heal and grow and really get to the root of your power and have significant transformations, soul transformations take place. So this is what I would say. If you are a person like Jyoti, she's got this very afflicted, what's called an afflicted 7th house. A couple of things you want to be mindful of. If you know that you want to be married again, if you meet that person where you're like, yes, I want to be married to this person, you know on a soul level that you are meant to be married to this person, if you have that conviction, you've got to honor it, but know that your work might be more than it might be for someone else. If you are the type of person that you don't necessarily need that, right? You don't really necessarily need to be married. Now again, it depends on where you are and what context, so many other things. I would want to know how your 5th house is also, right? Is your 5th house in a position where you want to have children? Are you in a culture where you have to be married to have children? Well, I'm going to be looking at all of this stuff as well. Consider the role that children are going to play as part of this in terms of figuring out your way forward. But then if you meet somebody and you say, yes, I got to be married if I'm going to have kids, and this is the person that I want to marry, then I'm going to look at those two charts together in synastry and composite and figure out strategies so that you can maximize the positive elements of that bond. You can maximize the positive elements of that connection. Because ultimately that is where a lot of your power is, to decide, okay, how are you going to bring forward the best that is on offer here? It means every one of us, look, every single one of us has parts of life that ask us to confront our fears and have more work involved than others. All of us. For some of us, it's relationships. And that means that it can feel more difficult than if it was something a little bit more personal. If you had a type of chart that said, you were constantly needing to move, constantly needing to redecorate, your home was always changing, well, you can deal with that. In a way, it's easier to deal with a structure than it might be to deal with having to deal with these different types of marriages, right? However, we all have areas of life that don't feel as smooth as other areas of life. The key is to understand what lesson is being presented to you and how to learn that lesson in a way that is conscious, that is engaging this energy in the highest vibration possible through your choices. And by integrating those lessons, you elevate that energy. If it comes to relationships, you want to be with somebody who's also interested in that process. If you know that you're a person who has a lot of stuff to heal, based on your 7th house, it's saying, look, you've got a lot of relationship stuff that you've got to work through, you've got to heal in this life. Well, you have got to be patient with yourself, but but you've also got to be with somebody who's going to be patient with you as well. And so I think that that really is the trick. Decide if it's something you really want and why you want it, okay? And once you've made that decision, then figure out the best strategies forward and make sure that you are moving forward with somebody who is willing to work with you where you are so that you can develop and grow and be everything that you can be. If you know, and especially if you have a lot of planets in the 7th house, regardless of how afflicted they are, you probably know that you need to be in a relationship because that's where your learning is. That's where you're going to grow. That's where you're going to figure out so many things. So life might just put you in situations where you do have to be in a committed relationship. You do have to be married. So how are you going to do that? You're going to choose somebody who, between the two of you, lots of harmonious synastry playing out. Between the two of you, really good composite chart playing out. And between the two of you, there is that understanding that you're working together in order to help each other evolve without taking ownership for each other's lessons. You have that sense of individuality and agency, but also that real sense of care and compassion. You'd be surprised, there are a lot of people out there who can give you just that if you are willing to find them and if you're open to meeting them as well. Well, thank you so much. I will stop there. Thank you so much to everybody out there. It'll be a wonderful journey in astrology, absolutely, and I so appreciate your questions, your comments. Please do keep them coming. I'm truly so grateful for this moment with you.